Good evening, this is Maestro Cretella with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Tonight we have a 2v2 on Hydris Chasm. I think that's how you say that word, though I'm not actually sure. Can't say any words tonight. Anyway, we have Maestro Cretella as the Eldar Warlock today. Kind of unusual, but that's me. We also have Unknown Primarch as this pretty intimidating Chaos Lord. Very tanky and amazing hero, period. On the other side, on the red team, we have Pads 346 as the Eldar Warp Spider, a teleporting hero. You don't see him a whole lot these days. Fights ranged, not all that powerful. I think that's kind of why you don't see him in teams. More of a harassment and Captain Commander. Finally, we have Winkel as this white Grey Knight Bro Captain, extremely tanky hero who's a lot like the Chaos Lord. Certainly has a lot of good things going for him. Now, so you know about my Eldar Warlock. This Warlock, he's can be a tanky melee hero or an offensive spellcaster, depending on how you kit him out. I main Chaos. I used to main Space Marine, so those are really like my two main races, and I'm way better with those races than I am with any other races. So, but I did actually used to play a lot of Eldar 1v1 in retail ranked. That being said, I'm actually very inexperienced with Eldar in teams, and it really is different. That being said, I'm the Warlock. I have as my build 2 Dire Avenger squads and Howling Banshees. I actually retreat right out of that fight because I don't like the fact that Pads 346... I'm just going to say Pads. I don't like the fact that his Banshees have an aspect right now while mine don't. So I decided that I just don't want that fight. But I'm liking the double Dire Avenger build. Dire Avengers are a little squishy, but they do have pretty good DPS. They have roughly the DPS of Attack Squad, so it is one of the better ranged DPS out of the starting ranged units in the game. I'm kind of rushing a little bit, basically rushing with all of my units against these Banshees, and that does force them off. I even get a Shuriken Cannon out really fast, and part of the way I was able to do that was that I have no aspects yet on any of my units, and I don't have any upgrades for my Warlock either. Looking at my teammate, he's actually managed to push in really far against Winkel, the Unknown Primarch. He's gone with a single Heretic and double Chaos Space Marine build. This is a build that I've certainly used a lot as Chaos. There are some people who say it's not very good. I actually think that it's not the greatest against Grey Knights, just versus those Strike Squad, the Inquisitorial Stormtroopers, and certainly the Purgation Squad are basically just going to suppress the CSM, and then the Bro Captain or the Strike Squad can just close for melee, while the Inquisitorial Stormtroopers just do ranged DPS. Anyway, I try to go for a little bit of a gen bash, but I don't get much off. Trying to suppress with my Guardian weapon team, but I'm actually getting beat out here. And the reason I'm getting beat out is because Pads put the heavy gauge Death Spinner on his Warp Spider, so he's actually causing knockback to my Guardian weapon team, preventing it from shooting. So it's a pretty good play from him. He's kind of out Eldaring me. Probably knows that I don't know. He actually went random, but at least right now I feel like he's playing Eldar better than I am. That being said, I do have an aspect on my Banshees, which is going to give me a little bit more confidence. He's actually been using... Pads has been using his Warp Spider very well, I think. I've mainly been trying to use my Dire Avengers to counter his Warp Spider. But because his Warp Spider is usually in cover, he's actually tanking a lot of damage, and I'm actually taking a lot of losses from my Dire Avengers. And certainly the Warlock can't really counter the Warp Spider by himself. And then my Dire Avengers are actually kind of getting... My Dire Avengers are kind of getting countered by his Guardian weapon team, while my Guardian weapon team isn't doing much. Anyway, I decide to send my Banshees over to the side for a little bit of a flank. I tried to go for a wipe on that Strike Squad, only managed to get one model. I have my Dire Avengers and my Warlock kind of in this middle lane, just kind of helping out. I'm actually moving up right here, pushing in through the middle. going in, actually going to try to go for a bit of a Gen Bash. I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm actually really excited to cast this game. I kind of just played it half an hour ago. Really excited to play it. It's a very close game. Probably a very good game, although that's just how it kind of feels. It's certainly a close game. May not be the highest level of play. I kind of rush in up here with most of my units and tried to have my Guardian weapon team defend the south here. But it ultimately didn't work. Not with the Warp Spider, just kind of teleporting in. The node on my power node gets Gen Bashed, and then I'm actually forced to retreat out of there. Well, I didn't have to, but I did. I backpedaled because I got flanked by Grey Knights. My Warlock is still unupgraded, but does manage to get... Well, it did manage to get in against that Guardian weapon team. Now my Warlock is being knocked down by the Warp Spider Exarch, though, and is going to go down. My Howling Banshees get in there, but now they're in trouble because they're getting flanked by his Howling Banshees. And I think I also realized that I was just kind of losing that fight in terms of how much health he had versus how much health I had. So red team pushed up a lot. At some point, either I or someone else actually wiped Pad's Dire Avengers. So a little bit of a victory there. The only problem is that I'm losing my natural requisition, I lost my natural victory point, and I'm losing my natural power. On the other side of things, I think Unknown Primarch is kind of getting overrun a bit. His Chaos Lord, obviously Chaos Lord is so good, and he's really threatening most of these units, but Unknown Primarch is having trouble with the rest of his units, and I think his build is just not working out that well. That being said, he sees the Rhino, so he's going for a Plague Marine squad, which is a decent choice. I managed to push out Pads in my lane, and I'm just going to take back my power farm with the Banshees while I'm kind of capping with all of the rest of my units. Warlock is still down. Kind of sucks, but what can I do about it? Grey Knights have pushed in, and now Red has a 3-cap, although I'm going to turn it back into a 2-cap. Chaos Lord kind of getting chased around here. Chaos Lord has no upgrades himself. Pads obviously rocking that heavy gauge Death Spinner. It's actually working out extremely well for him. Very good choice. He's getting the improved targeters too, so that he can be even better at bleeding my Dire Avengers and forcing off my units in general. He also has, let's see, alright, Winkel has the Teleporter on his Grey Knight Bro Captain, and he's getting the Nemesis Force Halberd. Will make him very good against these Chaos Space Marines, which now have Eternal War. Bro Captain almost goes down, but he teleports him out just in time. That Plague Marine squad, though, threatening this now Las Cannon Rhino, which has been upgraded to vehicle armor, getting a snare on it too. Eternal War Chaos Space Marines, not that great, but now they're getting Tzeentch Space Marine. They're getting the Tzeentch upgrade, which is going to be fantastic. Anyway, I've pushed up a little bit. I'm keeping my Guardian weapon team in play. Kind of risky, considering it's only at half health, but it still has 3 members. I think his Banshees are now kind of overwhelmed, and I'm probably going to go for a little bit of a Gen Bash. The only problem is that Pads now has Warp Spiders, and I don't really have a great counter to that yet. Warp Spiders can teleport behind the Guardian weapon team. They can just teleport away from Howling Banshees, and they will just severely out-DPS the Dire Avengers. Certainly a single Dire Avenger squad they'll out-DPS, although 2 Dire Avenger squads will actually do about as much damage as a Warp Spider squad. The only problem is that he also has that Guardian weapon team, which is definitely going to tip the balance, the ranged fights in his favor. I'm moving up a little bit with my Dire Avengers, probably going to get suppressed. Energy Shield goes down already, losing Dire Avengers models like crazy. Warp Spiders teleport in. They wanted to tie up that Guardian weapon team, but luckily I had my Howling Banshees right there, which is a smart thing to do. My Howling Banshees also do have the aspect of strength, so they have that Exarch with the Executioner Spear. My Warlock now has the Warp Throw ability, though. I was actually kind of using that, basically using that as a counter to the Guardian weapon team, and I actually managed to wipe the Guardian weapon team with that grenade. I did not even think I was going to get that wipe, but it happened. Warlock in a little bit of trouble with that, but that was definitely a good play by me. Not to brag about myself or anything, but I didn't even remember really making that play. In the other lane, Unknown Primarch is having a lot of trouble. He has a Plague Marine squad, but he's bleeding from pretty much all of his units, from his CSM, also from his Plague Marines, and he's got this Grey Knight Dreadnought in his lane, which is going to be extremely effective against everything Unknown Primarch has. And although he has AV in the form of the Plague Marines, they really just aren't good enough AV or strong enough AV to deal with the Grey Knight Dreadnought. Anyway, I think more interesting fighting is going over here. I'm getting very close to losing my Guardian weapon team, and Pads actually has a double Warp Spider Squad build. That's a ton of damage. Both of them have the Exarch. Combined, they're actually going to be doing about 200 DPS piercing, which is pretty obscene. A double Warp Spider build. It's, I mean, not to say that it doesn't have its limitations, but it's certainly very good in some ways. I'm not even entirely sure what to do about that. So I'm getting a Warp Spider Squad of my own. Although the combination of 2 Dire Avengers and the Warp Spiders will actually equal the damage of 2 Warp Spider Squads. I'm getting Gen Bash, though. My Warlock does have the Witchblade of Kurnos and Warp Throw. Anyway, on this side, the Grey Knight Bro Captain here is actually still just doing really well against pretty much all of the units that Unknown Primarch has, and he's actually kind of struggling in this lane. He does at least have his victory point. I don't even have my own victory point, so I'm not going to complain too much about him when I'm not entirely carrying my weight right now. And he is getting kind of torn apart, though, by the Dreadnought, which now has been upgraded to the Plasma Cannon, knocking down all of these units, getting a lot of kills. This Grey Knight Dreadnought, it is snared, and it has taken a little bit of damage. But right now, Unknown Primarch is countered pretty hard by Winkel. Anyway, I have kind of my whole army set up right here. Dire Avengers move in a little too much against the Warp Spiders, and I think I accidentally retreat them both. I didn't really mean to do that. I only have 1 Warp Spider Squad on the field right now, which definitely isn't going to counter 2 Warp Spider Squads, but he kind of teleports right into my Howling Banshees, forcing off a retreat from both of his Warp Spiders. And I think I get really close to wiping 1 Warp Spider Squad, but unfortunately, that last model was just too far ahead for me. And now I'm kind of in a bad position with both Howling Banshees and my Warp Spiders in here. I am going to use, do I use Ethereal Slash at this point? Yes, I do. And that's a pretty good melee counter. It's a better melee counter against low HP melee units. So Banshees, as powerful as they are going to get countered pretty hard, actually, by that Ethereal Slash. So on the other side of things, Unknown Primarch has a very high DPS build. He has fully upgraded Tzeentch Space Marines, 2 of them, along with this Chaos Lord. Now has the Arm of the Inferno. Is he going to get a wipe on the Bro Captain? I think so. Comes very close. Yes, he does. So good job by him. Still having, this Dreadnought is giving a ton of trouble, but meleeing with the Chaos Lord is actually not a bad idea. Preventing the Dreadnought from fire. Oh, but he had to stop meleeing with his Chaos Lord and took a huge blast from that Plasma Cannon Dreadnought. Ends up retreating both of his Tzeentch Space Marine squads and has to retreat this Plague Marine squad too. So he's having a ton of trouble. I kind of asked how my teammate was doing, and he was kind of saying that he was having a bit of trouble, I think. He says my only problem is that Plasma Cannon Dreadnought, but it's a very big problem for him. He did get his power farm wiped entirely. We've actually kind of been suffering for power, I think, a bit in this game. Me losing my entire power farm and then him losing his entire power farm. Luckily, mine only got decapped, so I was able to recap it. I do manage to get my natural victory point back, and now I'm actually kind of moving in this middle lane. I'm considering helping my teammate again. Unknown Primarch says I should have the side point in due time. We'll see, but I'm helping him out now. I'm obviously moving most of my forces into position. Again, doing the thing where I'm leaving my Guardian weapon team to kind of try to guard this side, which ultimately isn't going to work, but right now I'm over here, moving in my Dire Avengers, actually getting a cap, activate Swift Movement, teleport my Warp Spiders in, get that Haywire, and now the Banshees are chasing down this Rhino. So double Dire Avengers, getting that middle victory point back. Also, just doing DPS in general. Bro Captain goes down. Grey Knight Dreadnought in a little bit of trouble, and that I do take out that Rhino. And I'm going for a bit of a Gen Bash too. Only problem is, while I'm helping out my teammate and doubling Winkel, who is actually suffering major losses, my side is getting decapped. We do have an orbital bombardment. Warp Spiders get caught in that. So do some Tzeentch Space Marines. Shuriken Cannon has to retreat out of there because it was about to get in a lot of trouble. But I'm over here getting that Dreadnought too. And I managed to get that Dreadnought too. So by helping out my teammate, I managed to pretty much wipe out Winkel's entire army. He only has that Stormtrooper squad left, as well as his Bro Captain. I'm playing a dangerous game right here where most of my units are retreating through that middle path and retreating through Eldar units. Eldar is one of the worst races to retreat against because they have so much ability to wipe retreating units, whether it's from Dire Avenger grenades, even just the sheer DPS of Warp Spiders, or the sheer DPS of Howling Banshees getting bonus damage from melee on retreat. Pads now has a D-cannon in addition to an Autarch. I didn't even see that. So, unfortunately, Warlock has to get out of there pretty much immediately, getting hit by the knockdown on that Warp Spider. Warp Spider now fully kitted out. Enhanced Warp Generator, gonna make it a real teleporty commander. 2 Dire Avenger squads right here. They do not have the Exarch, but they do have that Aspect. Level 2 Dire Avengers. I actually have a very big army. Even get a Wraithlord out. I was kind of not even sure about this decision because Pads has... He's got Haywire grenades, he has Banshees. Luckily his Banshees are forced off. Although my Wraithlord isn't actually doing anything right now because it has been hit by the Haywire grenade. Something going off here. So that was a Singularity from the Distort Cannon, but he actually used Singularity on his own units. And now I have a really good opportunity for retreat kills. I get 2 models. I was hoping to get the wipe there, but I kind of didn't quite jump on that retreat opportunity fast enough, and my Wraithlord was haywired. Warlock now getting this victory point back. Unknown Primarch certainly in a much better position now that Winkel has very few units, but Winkel now has Grey Knight Terminators on the field. They will certainly take a lot of damage from the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, but as long as they get in melee, it's a win for them. My teammate at least has this middle victory point. I'm getting ours back where we have a big VP deficit though. 131 to 352. So we certainly have a lot of victory points to fight back on. Grey Knight Terminators use their teleport offensively to get in on these Plague Marines, doing a ton of damage. Unknown Primarch just retreats them out of there so they don't take too many losses. They do take 1, but I mean that's not that big of a deal, I think. Plague Marine's probably a little expensive to reinforce, but... And now I'm actually coming back into... I'm helping out my teammate again. I don't know if it's even that necessary. But I'm actually going in there. I run in with a grenade. Winkel sees it, retreats, but loses his entire Inquisitorial Stormtrooper squad anyway. My teammate is very happy with that wipe. I do have my Banshees in here, as well as my Wraithlord, and that's kind of chasing off these Grey Knight Terminators. But because I'm helping out my teammate, I'm also getting my... Pads is kind of pushing up into my lane. I'm just really getting pretty lucky to retreat through all of this without losing any squads entirely. And now I have to turn around. Chaos Lord, fully kitted out. Lightning Claws, Armor of the Inferno, and Icon of Khorne. Warp Spiders in here, kind of behind cover. They get charged by Howling Banshees, but now these Howling Banshees, I think I managed that well, where I kind of baited the Howling Banshees. When I knew I had that Wraithlord coming. Warp Spiders haywire my Wraithlord, but they no longer have enough AV support to really kill the Wraithlord. This Autarch actually has the fusion gun, AV source, but not the greatest one, and the Autarch is getting tied up by the Warlock. Warlock actually level 4, and luckily my team has a 2-cap now, but we have no power this game, believe it or not. My natural power node keeps getting decapped. Most of the generators went down. My teammate lost most of his generators over here. Hasn't had generators in a while, pretty much. Luckily, my teammate also wiped his opponent's generators. And I've only got a minor gen bash on the generators up here. So, blue team, my team, losing quite severely on the victory points, but we're gaining, certainly gaining momentum, and we actually have a major unit advantage, and I didn't even realize just how well we were doing on the units. I guess after all those wipes I got on Winkel. Grey Knight Terminators, though, Winkel is doing a good job of countering these Tzeentch Space Marines with the Grey Knight Terminators. They are taking a lot of damage, though, from everything that Unknown Primarch has. So Unknown Primarch is actually doing a pretty good job of countering the Grey Knight Terminators, but his Chaos Lord does go down. Double Plague Marines, doing damage to pretty much everything. And I'm coming back in here to help out my teammate. But of course that means that Pads is coming down here to bash again. The Guardian Weapon team stalls them for a second, but ultimately just needs to retreat out of there. And through all of this, these Grey Knight Terminators in a ton of trouble, getting chased down by Banshees as well as Chaos Terminators, and they kind of just die there, I think. Yep. So kind of sad for him. I put a Haywire on this Grey Knight Dreadnought, but now we have a Land Raider Crusader to deal with. Wraith Lord, I think actually gonna, and with all this AV that we have on my team, we are gonna get the kill on this Grey Knight Dreadnought. It is done. I'm staying in a little bit against this Land Raider Crusader, but I think it's going to kind of win this fight here. I do manage to res my teammate, though. On the other side of things, of course, since I'm pushing into the lane over here, I am once again losing my natural victory point as well as my natural requisition and getting hit by a gen bash. And this Land Raider Crusader actually in a lot of trouble. It's going very slowly. Plague Marines kind of chasing it. And I think it's actually going to go down just right here pretty much. He's really doing his best to try to keep it, to move it back. And I think, are they going to get it? Grenade launcher goes off. Oh yeah, that's going to be it. And Land Raider Crusader goes down for Winkel. Anyway. Alright, so I'm pushing in here. Unfortunately, since I've been in this lane so much, doubling the Grey Knights, I haven't been able to handle my own lane very well. I think it's... What I've actually kind of done here is... I actually just I haven't been in a very good position to fight the other Eldar player. He's pretty much out Eldaring me. But luckily I'm kind of doing what Eldar does to power armor races. Eldar, I think, is very good against power armor races, especially with Banshees. I actually don't have that much anti-power armor stuff, but Banshees are so good, and they are level 4. My Dire Avenger squads are both level 3. Guardian Weapon Team level 2. Warp Spiders level 3. Wraith Lord even level 2. And then Warlock level 6. I even used an Eldritch Storm up here to wipe Winkel's Inquisitorial Stormtroopers. I really didn't realize while playing this game just how much Winkel was suffering. Just on that, he has literally nothing except his Bro Captain. Anyway, I'm kind of charging up here, and once again, I feel like I'm kind of out Eldar'd. Fire Prism in here, my Howling Banshees running up, but dying in droves. Wraith Lord gets... I tried to use an Ethereal Slash on those Warp Spiders, but they kind of just teleported out. Wraith Lord is actually taking damage and not doing anything because it was haywired. Dire Avengers actually just gen bashing, but taking a ton of losses, and something's gonna happen here. An Eldritch Storm actually wipes both of my Dire Avenger squads, and it's gonna result in the death of my Wraith Lord too. So big losses for me. I had such a huge army and I'm now down to just 3 units. My teammate kind of coming in back here for a flank, kind of a bit of an encore or something like that. I don't know if I'm using that word right. Right. Fire Prism now in a ton of trouble, and now I actually back it up with my Warp Spiders. They get that Haywire off. The Fire Prism is definitely out of range of the Plague Marines, and I think now out of line of sight, but I put the Warp Spiders in. I'm forcing melee with the Warp Spiders, and I actually get that kill on a Fire Prism with forced melee on Warp Spiders. And now Imperial Abyss. Alright, that Imperial Abyss doesn't do a whole lot. Definitely forced off some Warp Spiders. Killed a bunch of them too. I'm actually replacing my Lost Dire Avenger squad. I don't know if that's the best choice, but I kind of just want to replace them just in case I want to pull out a vehicle. I also decide to go for a D-Cannon. So I'm at the stage of the game where I'm getting D-Cannons for D-Cannon spam because we're getting low on victory points. And D-Cannon spam is it's kind of an Eldar comeback mechanism because it's a plasma cannon that can shoot into the line of sight that you get for having a victory point. And it just kind of and because it has such huge range, it's really difficult to basically get once it's covering a victory point. I get forced off by these double Warp Spiders. Pads must be bleeding a ton from these Warp Spiders, though, and he does teleport this Warp Spider squad. That is quite a mouthful to decap this victory point. We're actually going to threaten a 3-cap. Unknown Primarch. His Chaos Terminators down to 3 members. His Tzeentch Space Marines losing models. Now, what I think he should do here, he should actually turn around with the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, shoot them with the Grey Knight Terminators since they're now targeting Plague Marines. And Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines are one of the best super heavy infantry counters in the game. So, by extension, they're one of the best Terminator counters in the game, as long as you can stay out of melee with the Terminators. And there goes that D-Cannon protecting that victory point. A Singularity went off there, but it's going to miss. Grey Knight Bro Captain for Winkel is at level 8. Now has that Holy Armor of Titan. Makes the Bro Captain extremely tanky. Gives him an extra 400 health for a total of 1800 at level 8. And he gets the ability to be immortal. And I can't imagine what kind of damage he's doing at level 8 with a 83.33 DPS power melee weapon that does splash damage. This guy must be so good. Unknown Primarch does have that level 4 Chaos Lord, which is still going to be pretty good too. I actually tried to go for a bit of a Gen Bash. My motivation behind getting that Gen Bash is that I'm at 400 red. I want more red so that I can throw down an Eldritch Storm. I have another Distort Cannon on the field. I'm going to put that over by this middle victory point to cover it. Warp Spiders teleport here. Was actually kind of trying to escape, but escape from the units over here while still Gen Bashing, but I teleport into some units that I can't really fight at the moment. Dire Avengers right here, getting the aspect. A little late to be getting that, but I'm trying it anyway. At this point in the game, I was actually not very confident that we could really... I kind of thought the game was over for us. I did not realize how many units that Winkel had lost, and I also didn't realize just how well Unknown Primarch was doing on his units at this point. He's really pushed up fully into here. He's got a pretty powerful army with double Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, a fully kitted out Chaos Lord at level 4, and double Plague Marines. He's actually going to be... Oh, so that's actually pretty smart by Winkel to use the Immortal ability to decap the victory point. They really need that at this point. And he actually should not even be attacking the Bro Captain. He should be attacking these other units. Oh, but actually I'm wrong. He actually gets a wipe on that Bro Captain. The invulnerability ran out. And now these Grey Knight Terminators are actually in trouble. But they are here. and they actually kill one of my D cannons. And I was kind of worried about that because I lost that ability to cover the victory point over here. But it looks like Winkel's going to lose this Grey Knight Terminator squad. I'm coming over here to help cover my teammate. Trying to target 2 Warp Spider squads with only 1. We have a totally missed... Oh, we do have an orbital bombardment on the Exarch Chaos Space Marines. Is it going to wipe any units? Doesn't look like it's going to wipe anything, to be honest. So, pretty lucky by Unknown Primarch not to really lose anything there. Certainly did... I mean, he took model losses, but I think he's doing just fine. I mean, he still has his squads, and he still has enough requisition to reinforce them. And Unknown Primarch is also sitting on enough red to do an Imperial Abyss, which is probably going to be very helpful for us. And there we go. We have this Autarch trying to go in for that decap, getting suppressed. I have the suppression team right here and the D-Cannon team right here. I actually get the sense that his D-Cannon is not really covered, and I also realize that a Fusion Gun Autarch is going to lose majorly to Howling Banshees, and he just has to go or he's going to lose his Autarch pretty much. I started the capture with those Banshees, and we're at a point in the game where we don't have much time to not capture. But I decided it was better for me to run in with the Howling Banshees, force off that D-Cannon, instead of risk losing my Guardian Weapon team to a D-Cannon. And instead I have my Guardian Weapon team capturing that point. Oh, and so now Pads, Howling Banshees, taking a ton of damage from those autocannon Terminators. Good choice. Autocannon is so good. And now the entire Eldar army, well, not the entire Eldar army, but a combined Eldar and Grey Knight force is in here. But Singularity is going to go off. Singularity ultimately only going to hit that Grey Knight Bro Captain. Does not kill him, but gets him off the cap. And unfortunately, I'm at a point where I'm kind of pushed back. I don't have a great fighting force. I have 5 units, but 2 of them are D-Cannons. So I don't really have a great fighting force. I'm getting pushed off. It's actually very fortunate that my teammate has this middle victory point here. And now Red Team is actually going to threaten a 2-cap, which is really, really bad. My Howling Banshees are still in play, and I know that they're going to win against pretty much any power armor squad. So I have them in play here. Almost going to wipe this Purifier squad. I also have the Warp Spiders in here. And unfortunately, he's got a Strike Squad in the building. Now, the only anti-garrison I have is actually the D-Cannons. So I set my D-Cannon up right here, firing arc, with that building in place. And my teammate, certainly for a lot of the game, I think I was helping out him a lot, but right now he's making some game-winning plays, getting the back cap on the Eldar Natural when my Natural is decapped. That was extremely helpful. And then this Strike Squad right here is honestly just going to get wiped. I think maybe Pads was not paying attention, did not know that I had anti-garrison, did not know that D-Cannons were anti-garrison, or just knew that he wasn't going to get them out of there alive. Alright, now I'm getting my Natural back with my Warp Spiders. We're pushing up in here. My Warlock is down. And now we're threatening a 3-cap. Pads is sad. Pads also floating massive resources, getting an Avatar on the way. And now the Autarch even gets forced off by the Howling Banshees and the Exarch Chaos Space Marines. Howling Banshees now going to start that cap, and we're on the way to winning this game. And as much as I had trouble all game with these double Warp Spiders, luckily double Exarch Chaos Space Marines do just straight up counter Warp Spiders. They do less damage, but they have more health, they have heavy armor, and they still do very high damage. Now here's what I do. These Warp Spiders, I start charging in with my Howling Banshees. Warp Spiders teleport out, and then I do an Eldritch Storm. I did that intentionally. I kind of baited out that teleport, and even though that Eldritch Storm did not even have to kill anything, but it did what it needed to do, because it forced off those Warp Spiders, and it actually won us the game. So that was a long game, a close game. I don't know if it was quite as good in the playback as I thought it was in reality, or when I was actually playing it. Winkel, I feel bad for this guy, losing everything, and Pads kind of outplaying me in my lane, but then unfortunately not being there for his teammate. and red team also winning the entire game, and then we made that comeback, kind of thanks to the D-cannons, certainly thanks to a few vehicle wipes on the Grey Knights. And this build, although I think Unknown Primarch was struggling a lot in the beginning, and his build was not good at first, it actually ended up scaling really well. Anyway, that's the cast. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.